We have a concerning weather pattern ahead with more wintry weather and an ice storm, and we look ahead to early and mid January in today's weather forecast. Welcome back, everyone, to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas out there. And if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns across North America, be sure to press the subscribe button down below so you get that. And I would love to hit 60,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel. Also, make sure you do press the like button down below. It helps out more than you know. So right now what you're looking at is your seasonal snowfall accumulation in inches since September 30th of 2023. And notice where we have had the snow and where we haven't had the snow so far to this point. You do notice across the Rockies, we did see some decent snows all year long so far. Up here into the mountains in Washington State, into Oregon, and the Sierras have seen some decent snows as well. And we've seen some decent snows across interior New England through the winter season so far. But what we do see is the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, into the northern high plains, not seeing much of a snowpack to this point. Looking at our past 48 hours in snowfall with our wintry system across the northern high plains, several inches of accumulation across portions of South Dakota, Nebraska, and getting into northern Kansas. And zooming it in here, some of these areas have seen 1.5 feet of snowfall. We've seen 18 inches of snow up here into portions of South Dakota, up to 1 foot of snow into northern Nebraska over the past 48 hours. And we do have a big slosh of wintry precipitation here across the middle of the country. We have winter storm warnings, we have ice storm warnings, we have blizzard warnings out here, wintry weather advisories, high wind warnings. Definitely seeing a lot of action here across the middle of the country. Here are our current weather conditions across the United States. We have the snowfall on the backside falling across the northern and central high plains. We have the rainfall on the warm side of the system across the upper Midwest for the most part, especially into Minnesota, the northwoods of Wisconsin, and then crossing its way through the eastern U.S. as we go through this morning. Looking at precipitation trends throughout the day, that snowfall and the ice threat will continue to reside across the Dakotas into portions of Nebraska and northern Kansas, with the highest ice potential across North Dakota getting into northwestern Minnesota. And then we're seeing all rain for the upper Great Lakes region there into Michigan, and then rounding itself with that cold front across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast coast through today. As we go into tonight, more of the same. The snowfall will continue to linger. A very slow moving system across the United States as well. We have rainfall across the east, and then as we go into your Wednesday time frame tomorrow, we have lingering precipitation across the middle of the country, snow on the backside here, and we also have rainfall across portions of the Northeast, the I-95 corridor through New Jersey, New York City, Long Island. Definitely seeing some of that rainfall out there on Wednesday, and more lingering precip as we go into that Thursday time frame. So let's break it down piece by piece. Here's your rainfall accumulation now through Friday. This takes us through December 29th. Widespread rainfall here, very heavy rains across the eastern United States, from the mid-Atlantic here through portions of Delaware, New Jersey, getting into Maryland, Virginia, getting into the Western Carolinas. And we zoom it in here, look at some of these totals going through Friday. We could see widespread 3 to 6 inches worth of rainfall across portions of New Jersey, through Delaware here, through Maryland, getting down through Virginia, the western North Carolina vicinity, and then getting into western South Carolina. And some of that could actually linger down into northeastern Georgia as well, with some of the heaviest rains across the western Carolinas. And that's where we have that marginal to slight risk for flash flooding as we go from today into your Wednesday, the 27th of December timeframe, with the highest flash flood potential across western North Carolina. Areas there could see over 6 inches worth of rain Then looking on the winter side, the cold side of the system, if you will, you do see the snowfall accumulation, additional accumulation on top of what we've already shown you. We've had 18 inches or so falling across South Dakota. We're going to be adding a few more inches on top of that. Looking at this here, another foot or so of snow when it's all said and done on top of that. So there could be areas that see over 2 feet of snow when it's all said and done here on the ground across South Dakota, getting into western portions of Nebraska, and then moving further south from there into Colorado and northwestern and northern Kansas, a decent footprint of around 1 to 3 inches of fresh new snow cover on the ground is likely as we go through the end of the week. Then we mentioned the ice storm threat. We have ice storm warnings across the northern tier of the United States, across the eastern Dakotas. We could be seeing some 1/4 to 1/2 an inch to even 3/4 of an inch of ice accumulation here, especially into northern South Dakota, but more so into North Dakota there on the eastern side of the state. Definitely getting hit hard by that ice accumulation threat through the end of the week. And if that's not enough, this storm system is slow moving, and it's also going to be producing some very strong winds. We could be seeing wind gusts over 50, if not over 60 miles per hour here. You can see that with the red shaded colors and the yellow shaded colors here across the Dakotas, down into west central Nebraska, western Kansas, getting into eastern Wyoming and the eastern Colorado region, right off the Front Range as we go through your Wednesday time frame. So putting it all together, yes, there's good reason why we have ice storm warnings, winter storm warnings, blizzard warnings, and all that type of stuff out there. That's what the local National Weather Services have alerted you to because of all those impacts. And we could be seeing those impacts on travel as well. So if you're heading home from your Christmas destination over the next few days, we need to be watching out here across the Dakotas, west central Nebraska, western portions of Kansas, down across Wyoming there, especially southeastern Wyoming, and then across northeastern Colorado for that threat as well. Then as we get beyond there and we're looking ahead now to our new holiday of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, this upcoming weekend, here are your temperature anomalies across North America. Notice we have the warmer anomalies up here into central and western Canada. That is with the high pressure system. High pressure usually brings sinking air and drier weather, which usually heats up a lot better across western Canada there, especially with the lack of snow cover we have been seeing to this point as well. And notice we also have the cooler anomalies across the east coast of the United States and the southeast coast through that weekend time frame, taking you right into New Year's Eve on Sunday the 31st, and then turning the page to 2024 on Monday into Tuesday, January 1st and 2nd. We do have the colder anomalies settling in across the east coast and the southeast, and the warmer anomalies across the northern tier of the United States and also across Canada as well. So putting that together, here are your high temperatures on Sunday, New Year's Eve. Notice the freezing line pushing further south than we've seen it for much of this fall and winter season. You can see those freezing line marks. You can see 31 degrees there into Des Moines, 33 there into Kansas City, 30 degrees in Garden City, Kansas as we go into that region as we go into New Year's Eve. And then going into New Year's Eve night for your low temperatures, that freezing line will shift further south across North Texas, going across the Dixie Alley region, and then turning into New Year's Day. Notice we're much cooler across the eastern United States, a little bit warmer out west with a little bit of an influence with that high pressure system, but overall a lot cooler and more of a shock to the system than we've seen it so far this year. So you wonder, well, with the cooler temperatures or colder temperatures, what does it mean for our precipitation chances moving forward? So here's our 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, going from New Year's Eve on Sunday, December 31st, going through Thursday, January 4th of 2024. Notice we're drier across the Pacific Northwest with the brown shaded colors up there. Also drier across the northern tier from the upper Midwest the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and into much of the Northeast and New England. But notice more that El Nino pattern does persist across the Pacific Southwest through California, the Sacramento Valley, through the Four Corners region, and then getting across the Texas Hill Country here and near the Gulf Coast as we go through that fourth time frame of January, and that extends all the way through the first full week of January. This takes you through Monday, January 8th. Notice it's wetter across the south and it's much drier to the north with this weather pattern we have shaping up for early January. So let's dive into the details a little bit more here and show you what we mean by that. So the jet stream from New Year's Eve on the 31st into New Year's Day on the 1st of January, we have more of a shortwave trough moving in across the southeastern United States. Shortwave troughs are infamous for bringing more wintry precipitation this time of year, especially with colder weather, but just active weather in general. And you can see that for Sunday, New Year's Eve, pretty dry. We could have some flurries, a very weak system, 1010 millibar low, very weak system up here into the western Great Lakes region. Could be dropping some fluffy snow, maybe a half an inch of snow across Michigan. If even that, we're probably not going to be seeing that much snow. And then going into Monday, New Year's Day, we have a system with that shortwave trough we were just mentioning moving across the Gulf Coast and the southeast coast. That will be bringing some rainier weather there across Mississippi into Alabama and to northwestern Florida during that time frame. So this system overall going through the New Year's holiday will be more of a nuisance. We're really not seeing as much heavy rainfall with the second system as we're seeing with this current one moving through now, but some decent rains across Dixie Alley here in the southeast coast, possibly up to 3/4 of an inch of rain down there from portions of East Texas through Louisiana, through Mississippi, Alabama, going through Georgia there into the Carolinas and northern Florida during that time frame. And notice, even though we have the colder air moving further south, the snow doesn't really pile up too much. Maybe a few flurries, a few snow showers with the second system, not too big of a deal. But here is what is interesting, folks. If you are waiting for winter and you're a winter lover like me out there and you like to snow shovel and you have a business for snow shoveling or snow plowing, this is what you like to see. So the NAO, the North American Oscillation, is positive right now, and that's really not good when you see and you look for those big winter's time storms across the eastern United States. We see that turning more neutral as we go into early January, but by the middle of January, that actually turns negative, and that means we're going to have more eastern-based storms across the East Coast and moving up the East Coast, possibly as nor'easters. And we look at the AO. That means we have colder air pushing south if we get into those negative values. And look at this, folks. As we go into early January and especially the middle of the month by the 14th, 15th, 16th time frame and possibly beyond, we see the AO, the Arctic Oscillation, starting to shift from neutral back into negative and possibly well into the negatives as we go into the middle of January. So let's put this together and show you what we're talking about. Here's the 850 millibar temperatures, and basically this is just several thousand feet above our heads, but this cold air can be translated down towards the surface, and notice that freezing line going further south there. And then as we go into the middle of the month, we could have a bigger storm system moving in across the East Coast. We talked about that North American Oscillation, more eastern based storms rounding across the southern United States into the eastern U.S. Those are more notorious for nor'easters and just stronger systems in general, picking up that Gulf of Mexico and that Pacific moisture. And then you got cold air on the backside, those classic snowstorms, blizzards that we like to look for there. So looking at your total accumulated precipitation anomaly map from the middle of the month into the third week in January, so the 16th through the 23rd time frame, we could be seeing more hints of above normal precip across the southeast, but also up into the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, including that I-95 corridor, and perhaps some hint there as well of the Midwest and Ohio Valley, seeing at least near normal to slightly above normal precip from the 16th through the 23rd time frame. And you can see that here with our jet stream, we have stronger storm systems rounding across the southern United States with an active subtropical and Pacific jet stream, and then they start to move more across the East Coast. And whether or not they're offshore or not, but definitely seeing a lot of these stronger storms moving in as we go into January. So if we've been waiting for snow, just wait a couple more weeks, folks. Our potential snow depth in inches, when this cold air comes further south, we're going to set up that active storm track, and that snow line does look to shift further south. Now, we need to be patient because the snow cover across Canada is not particularly too widespread and too deep right now. So it will take time for that deep Arctic cold air to move south, but once it gets set up and we lay out the foundation for that snowpack in Canada, then the snow line will start to drift further south into the Midwest, into the Missouri Valley, the Ohio Valley, and eventually the Northeast, and perhaps even the I-95 corridor as we go deeper into the month of January, especially by the middle and end of the month. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel down below for detailed weather breakdowns and accurate weather on North America and the tropics moving forward. Make sure to like the video down below if you like today's weather forecast and you like getting more of these weather forecasts in the future. And I hope everybody had a great Merry Christmas out there, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their Tuesday out there.